Deep Dive Podcast by the Boca Raton Tribune.
Okay, picture this. You're settling in, maybe flipping through channels, expecting, your usual late night laughs. You land on ABC for Jimmy Kimmel Live, but, well, it's not there.
Just gone, replaced.
Exactly. Just silence, relatively speaking. A different show, maybe a quick graphic. And you've probably seen the headlines flying around, heard people talking.
Oh, definitely. It was big news.
But the story behind why it vanished overnight, it's way more tangled than just show canceled.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty stunning, actually. And it makes you wonder what really went down and what does it tell us about, well, media and power today?
Yeah, there are layers to this one.
So today, that's what we're diving into. The indefinite suspension of Jimmy Kimmel Live by ABC. And look, this isn't just about one TV show getting pulled.
No, not at all.
It's really a lens on free speech, especially when it's under pressure.
Yeah.
How much influence can government actually have on media companies? And it spotlights that whole tricky dance between satire, the news, and, politicians, especially here in the U.S.
It's a complex relationship, always has been.
Right. And for this deep dive, we're leaning heavily on the reporting and legal takes from the Boca Raton Tribune. They've done some really comprehensive work laying out the timeline, getting reactions from, well, everywhere on the political map.
They've got some solid analysis there.
Our goal here is to unpack exactly how this happened, step by step, explore the very different ways people are seeing ABC's decision, and then zoom out a bit. What does this mean long-term for media freedom, for the First Amendment? Hopefully by the end, you'll have a much clearer picture of what's really at stake.
And what strikes me looking back is just how fast it all happened, how one comment, just one piece of commentary could blow up into this huge national thing.
Yeah.
It really exposed some fault lines, things maybe we don't always talk about in the media system.
Okay, let's rewind. Let's find that initial spark. It all started, apparently, on Monday, September 15th, 2025.
Right.
Jimmy Kimmel. And let's be honest, he's never been shy about criticizing President Trump. He does his monologue. And this one touched on the really tragic assassination of Charlie Kirk, the conservative activist. That had happened just 5 days before.
Yeah, still very raw. And Kimmel's comments, they focused specifically on how Kirk's death was being discussed politically. He basically suggested some of Kirk's allies were, and I think the quote was, using his murder to score political points.
Mm-hmm. Typical late night stuff in a way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Engaging with a big, sensitive story, offering a critique of the rhetoric he saw.
Exactly. But that's where things went sideways fast. The government's reaction, It wasn't just quick. It was unusually forceful.
You mean Brendan Carr, the FCC chairman?
That's the one. Trump appointed chairman of the FCC. He reacted almost instantly and very, very publicly to what Kimmel said.
How so? What did he actually do?
Well, first, he announces he's going to investigate ABC, the network itself. But he didn't stop there. He then went on to actively encourage local ABC stations across the country to just drop the show, pull it from their lineup.
He urged them to drop it.
Yeah. And his language, it wasn't subtle. He reportedly said something like, "We can do this the easy way or the hard way."
Oof. The easy way or the hard way? Well, that sounds like a threat, doesn't it? Not really a suggestion.
It certainly landed that way for many. It made it crystal clear that federal intervention was on the table if they didn't comply. Even without a formal FCC vote or ruling, the chairman's words carry immense weight.
And you could see that weight almost immediately.
Absolutely. The pressure just built incredibly fast. Things started moving. The first big domino was Nexstar Media Group.
They own a lot of local stations, right? Big player.
Huge. A major owner of ABC affiliates. And they just pulled the plug. Pulled Kimmel from all their stations.
Just like that.
Pretty much. And here's a crucial piece of context. Nexstar, at that very moment, had a massive multi-billion-dollar deal sitting in front of the FCC, waiting for approval. Okay, so the timing.
The timing is, let's say, suggestive. It immediately makes you ask, was this them trying to get ahead of things? Appease Carr to smooth the path for their deal?
Right, protect their business interests. It makes sense from that perspective.
Whether it was direct pressure or anticipated pressure, the effect was the same.
So, Nexstar pulls out. And then barely 2 days after Kimmel's monologue and Carr's comments, that was Wednesday, September 17th, ABC itself drops the hammer.
Yeah. The network announces the indefinite suspension of Jimmy Kimmel Live.
Indefinite, not just a week off. Indefinite. That's huge. This isn't just local stations anymore. This is the network shelving its own big late-night show.
It signals a massive level of corporate, well, concern at the very least, probably fear.
And the reaction to that.
Immediate and loud. You had House Democratic leaders just blasting Carr's actions. They called it a corrupt abuse of power.
Strong words.
Very. They flat out accused him of bullying ABC and forcing the company to bend the knee to the Trump administration. That's a direct quote. So the political fight was on. But it wasn't just politicians, was it?
No, not by a long shot. Hollywood unions, the creative guilds like the Writers Guild of America, they all came out with this unified front.
What was their take?
They framed it as a grave threat to artistic freedom. Really fundamental stuff. They talked about the importance of the freeing agreement to disagree, the bedrock of creative expression. And they had this stark warning. They said, silencing us impoverishes the whole world.
Wow, that's powerful.
And it wasn't just statements. People took to the streets. There were demonstrations outside the El Capitan Theater in L.A. where they taped the show.
Right.
And also outside Disney HQ in New York. Disney owns ABC, of course. So clearly this hit a nerve way beyond just the media or political bubble.
Okay, so this whole chain reaction.
Yeah.
Kimmel's comment, Carr's threat, Nexstar pulling out, ABC suspending the show. It throws us right into that murky legal area around free speech.
Yeah, it does.
Most people think, okay, First Amendment. The government can't censor me. But here we have a private company, ABC, making the decision. So where does the government overreach argument come in?
Well, that's the key legal point, isn't it? You're right. The First Amendment usually stops direct government action. But there's this really important precedent from, I think it was a 1963 Supreme Court case.
Okay. What did it say?
It basically established that the government can't set up what it called a system of informal censorship by leaning on private companies to do the censoring for them.
Ah, so it's about the pressure. Not a direct order, but using influence.
Exactly. It's about a regulator, like the FCC chair, using their power to effectively shut down speech without going through any formal legal channels. It's censorship by proxy, potentially.
Okay, informal censorship. That seems like the core issue legally. But even with that precedent, I'm hearing legal experts say that if Kimmel himself sued, he'd have a tough time winning. An uphill battle, they're calling it. Why?
Well, the big problem is proving direct coercion. That's a really high bar.
What does that mean exactly?
Kimmel would have to show clear, undeniable evidence that Carr's threats directly caused ABC to suspend him. Not just that Carr's words were influential, but that they were the deciding factor. Like a smoking gun.
Like an email saying, do this or else.
Something like that, yes. Maybe proof of private threats or a clear quid pro quo. And that's incredibly hard to find, especially if ABC can argue credibly, look, we were just reacting to business realities after Nexstar pulled out. It wasn't the government telling us what to do.
Right. They have their own reasons they can point to. Plausible deniability.
Exactly. And there's another layer, too. ABC, as the network, as the publisher, they also have First Amendment rights.
Their own free speech rights.
Yes. They have the right to decide what they broadcast. They can't be forced to air something they think is bad for business or harmful to their brand. So it gets complicated with different free speech arguments potentially clashing.
Okay. So a lawsuit might be tough. But does that mean Carr's actions had no real impact?
Oh, absolutely not. This is where almost all the experts agree, the chilling effect.
The chilling effect. We hear that term a lot. What does it mean here?
It means that even without a successful lawsuit, even without formal censorship, the actions of a powerful regulator like Carr send a very loud message.
What message?
The message is, be careful. Certain topics, certain criticisms, especially of the administration, might bring down serious heat. It tells every other network, every studio, every writer, every comedian.
There could be consequences. Not necessarily legal ones, but business ones. Informal punishment.
Precisely. It makes people think twice. Maybe shelve a risky project. Maybe tone down the commentary. It encourages self-censorship across the board. That's the chilling effect. It's subtle, but really damaging to open discourse.
It changes the calculation for anyone creating content.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've heard from Democrats, the unions, the legal experts, mostly framing this as government overreach or pressure.
Yeah.
But President Trump had his own take.
All right. He did, yes. A very different narrative. He spoke about it while he was overseas, actually, in England at Chequers alongside the UK Prime Minister, Keir Starmer. This was on Thursday, the 18th.
So an international press conference. What did he say about the Kimmel suspension?
Well, first, he actually praised ABC for the decision.
Praised them.
Yep. But he chalked it up mostly to, quote, Kimmel's bad ratings. And he also said Kimmel said a horrible thing about Charlie Kirk. So in his view, it was basically a business decision driven by low viewership and offensive content.
Nothing about government pressure or the FCC chairman he appointed.
Not a mention of that. He framed it purely as Kimmel failing. And he got personal, too.
Oh, how so?
He called Kimmel not a talented person, said ABC should have fired him a long time ago.
Wow. Okay.
So he completely dismissed the free speech angle, turned it entirely into a critique of Kimmel's talent and judgment, not a constitutional issue or anything to do with his administration's actions.
That's quite the counter-narrative,
Yeah.
shifting it away from regulation entirely.
Completely. It focuses everything on Kimmel himself and market forces.
So let's try and tie this all together. We've got the monologue, the FCC threat, the corporate decisions, the outcry, the legal complexities, Trump's dismissal. What does this whole episode really signify for us watching, for the media landscape?
So looking at the bigger picture, I think you have to see this as a serious escalation. The Trump administration has had a, let's say, tense relationship with parts of the media for a long time.
That's putting it mildly.
Right. But this feels like a new tactic. Using a regulatory body's power, even informally, to directly influence programming content. That's different, and potentially sets a precedent for future administrations, too.
And it puts corporations in a really tough spot, doesn't it? Companies like ABC, like Disney. How do they react when the government leans on them like that?
It raises huge questions about corporate responsibility. Where's the line between protecting your business, your shareholders, that pending deal maybe, and upholding principles like free expression or journalistic independence? This whole thing really forces us to think about how vulnerable media might be to political pressure, maybe more than we realized.
Could financial concerns increasingly override those principles?
That's the worry, isn't it? And, thinking about political comedy, satire, this could seriously reshape that landscape, especially after something as sensitive as the Kirk assassination.
How so?
Well, the swift, public, and arguably successful pressure from a regulator, it sends that chilling effect we talked about into overdrive. Every comic, every commentator now has this case study in the back of their mind. If I say this, could my show get pulled? Could the network buckle? It might just lead to safer, less critical commentary overall.
Fewer people willing to push the boundaries.
Exactly, which, impacts the health of public debate. It's a moment that really makes you pause and consider where things might be heading.
So wrapping up this deep dive, the core conflict seems pretty clear.
Yeah.
You have Kimmel's comments, Carr's reaction, ABC's decision, and then this huge debate erupts over free speech versus government pressure.
And woven through it all is that undeniable chilling effect that experts keep pointing to. It shows how powerful figures, especially in government, can shape the public conversation, can apply pressure without ever passing a law or issuing a formal order. It's about the threat of consequences being almost as effective as the consequences themselves.
It really is. It's not just about one show, one host. It's about the environment everyone in media is operating in now. So here's something to chew on as we finish. We live in this super polarized time, right? Lines are drawn really sharply. How do we as a society protect that space for sharp commentary, for satire, for criticism?
Which is vital for democracy.
Absolutely vital. Yeah. How do we protect that space from both direct government interference and that more subtle, maybe corporate caving into pressure? Finding that balance, it feels more critical and honestly more difficult than ever before.